Welcome to KMUZ Theater Talk. I'm your host, Ed Shopes. KMUZ Theater Talk comes your way the first and third Friday of every month with news and in-depth interviews about auditions and performances of plays and musicals running at theaters throughout the Mid-Willamette Valley. Today I'll be talking with Jill Sorensen and two actors from the beautiful musical story Big Fish, running March 21st through April 12th at Pentacle Theatre in Salem. But first, let's dive into the KMUZ Theater Talk calendar for news about auditions and shows happening at your favorite Mid-Willamette Valley theaters. For the McMinnville and Newburgh area theaters, at Gallery Theatre in downtown McMinnville, The Cottage runs through March 30th in Gallery's Arena Theatre. Now, don't miss this charming farce featuring betrayals, scandals, and surprises around every corner, because tickets are flying, so go to the gallerytheatre.org website before they're gone. Roald Dahl's Willy Wonka, with music and lyrics by Leslie Bricusse and Anthony Newley, will run on Gallery Theatre's main stage May 2nd through 25th, and that one's directed by Travis and Kalina Morgan. For show information and tickets, and to sign up for auditions, go to gallerytheatre.org. Penguin Productions in Newburgh presents A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder by Friedman and Luttwak, March 28th through April 6th in the LaJoy Theater at the Chehalem Cultural Center in Newburgh. A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder is a hilarious, murderous romp filled with unforgettable music, nonstop laughs, and a scene-stealing role for one actor playing all 8 of the doomed Disquith family heirs who meet their ends in the most creative and side-splitting ways. It was the most nominated show of the 2014 Broadway season. For show information and tickets, go to the Penguins on Stage website. At the Greater Salem area theaters, Bridgetown Conservatory Salem has Make Me a Song, the music of William Finn, conceived by Rob Ruggiero, and it plays April 24th through 27th at the Verona Studio Theater in Salem. This Bridgetown musical theater production is directed by Seth Rennie, and the cast includes Nehemiah Creel, Stephanie Gibbs, Lance Nutman, and Beth Sobo-Turk. Get your tickets at simpletix.com. On the Bridgetown Conservatory Salem call board, there are still a few spots left for Bridgetown Conservatory's spring term class, He Sang, She Sang, Gender Bending the Broadway Song. Classes for teen and adult actors run every Saturday from March 29th through May 17th at Bridgetown's Downtown Salem studio. See Bridgetown Salem Facebook page and the bridgetownconservatory.org website to sign up for triple threat classes and auditions and for show information and tickets. At Center Stage Theatrics, registration is open for the 4th year of the Center Stage Theatrics week-long overnight theater camp for middle school through high school students. You can learn more about the summer theater camp on our KMUZ Theater Talk podcast interview with Matthew Voisin. And to sign up for Camp Center Stage, go to centerstagetheatrics.org. Children's Educational Theater in Salem is at cetsalem.org, and time is running short to register your student for CET's popular 2025 summer program, so sign up now at cetsalem.org and grab a slot before they're gone. Classes start June 23rd and run through July 26th. Coming to Kaiser Homegrown Theater, Drinking Habits, a comedy by Tom Smith and directed by Jeff Minden, runs April 11th through 27th at KHT. Accusations, mistaken identities, and romances run wild in this laugh-out-loud farce. 2 nuns of the Sisters of Perpetual Sowing are secretly making wine to keep the convent's doors open. But Paul and Sally, reporters and former fiancés, are hot on their trail. They go undercover as a nun and priest, but the convent nuns think that they're spies sent from Rome to shut them down. Wine and secrets are inevitably spilled as everyone tries to save the convent and reconnect with lost loves. Cast members Laura Davis and Kathy Willoughby will join me on our April 4th program and podcast to give us a peek behind the curtain. For show information and tickets, go to kaiserhomegrowntheater.org and their Facebook page. At Pentacle Theatre in Salem, March 21st through April 12th, Pentacle Theatre presents Big Fish, that beautiful musical based on the celebrated novel and film. It tells the heartwarming story of Edward Bloom, a traveling salesman with larger-than-life stories, and his son Will, who's determined to uncover the truth behind his father's epic tales. Director Jill Sorensen and actors Natalie, Pate, Gwin, and Noah Miller from Big Fish will tell us more right after today's break. Big Fish is followed by The Glass Menagerie, the Tennessee Williams classic, directed by Jeff Sanders, and that's on stage at Pentacle Theatre May 9th through 31st. And on the Pentacle Theatre call board, director Debbie Neal will hold auditions April 19th in Pentacle's upstairs auditorium for Black Comedy by playwright Peter Schaefer. That show runs June 27th through July 19th. And director Robert Sahlberg will also hold auditions April 19th in Pentacle's downstairs lobby for Hairspray, the musical by O'Donnell, Meehan, and Shaman. And that show runs August 15th through September 6th. And Joe Dodge's acting workshop for adults 18 and older meets on Saturdays at Pentacle Theater's rehearsal studio in downtown Salem. See the pentacletheater.org website and Facebook page for tickets, audition information, and to sign up for acting workshops. Struts and Frets Theater Company in Rick Rial doesn't have anything on stage at the moment, but they do have something on their call board. Auditions are April 7th from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. at the Dallas Event Center for Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. You can see the Struts and Frets Facebook page for info and to schedule your audition and fill out the forms at strutsandfretstheater.org. And that Midsummer Night's Dream production plays September 4th through 6th at the River's Edge Amphitheater in downtown Independence. Go to strutsandfretstheater.org and Facebook for show information and to reserve your tickets at eventbrite.com. Theater 33 at Willamette University will hold its 2025 New Plays Festival in Salem this summer. Theater 33 will soon announce its summer festival lineup and will bring that news to you as soon as we learn more. Watch theater33.org and their Facebook page for festival details. For the Staten and Silverton area theaters at Brush Creek Playhouse in Silverton, the Brush Creek Players are celebrating bringing 50 years of shows to their Little Red Schoolhouse stage with a 14-production season. That's the most in their long history. Next up is Much to Do About Notices, which runs April 4th through 20th at the Playhouse on Silverton Road. It's directed by Rihanna O'Connor and Russell Oliveira Jr. Three male troubadours performing Shakespeare plays are the worst traveling troupe of players in England. They survive only by stealing the audience's purses. But their fortunes change when a woman passing as a man, horrors, replaces an actor after he literally breaks his neck. And, of course, hilarity ensues. Go to brushcreekplayhouse.com and Facebook for show, ticket, and audition information. Playing at Spotlight Community Theater in downtown Staten, Spotlight's Hearts of Stage formal fundraiser gala happens April 5th at the United Methodist Church on Fernridge Road in Staten. And on Spotlight Community Theater's call board, auditions for The Cliff Notes of Insanity, Princess Bride in 30 Minutes or Less, and other fantastical stories are March 22nd at the Spotlight Theater in downtown Staten. Director Shannon Rempel is casting 7 preteens and 7 to 10 adults for this comedy. For show information, tickets, and audition details, go to spotlightct.com and Facebook. For the Albany and Corvallis area theaters, on stage at Albany Civic Theater, The Big 5-0 by Brian Mitchell is a hilarious and sometimes touching account of a man coming to terms with his age, his relationship with his son, and his future. It's directed by Scott Harvey and is coming up April 4th through 19th at Albany Civic Theater. And on the Albany Civic Theater Call Board, auditions are coming up April 7th through 9th for the classic thriller Dial M for Murder, directed by Dan Bushong, Josh Mischel, and Christy E. Sears. That show runs June 13th through 28th. For show information, tickets, and audition details, go to albanycivic.org and Facebook. At the Majestic Theater in downtown Corvallis, the Majestic 8 10-Minute Play Festival happens March 22nd. The festival's selection of short works by Oregon and Washington playwrights is directed by Lee Matthews Bach and Kathy O'Brien. And a Reader's Theater production of Becky Nurse of Salem by playwright Sarah Rule happens April 26th and 27th at the Majestic Theater. It's directed by Robert Leff. This contemporary ensemble comedy centers on an ordinary but strong-willed grandmother just trying to get by. She's also the great-great-great-great-granddaughter of Rebecca Nurse, who was infamously executed for witchcraft in 1602. Desperate to raise her troubled teenage granddaughter right and hoping to hook up with an old flame, Becky asks a local witch for help, but those spells and potions don't work out exactly as planned. After that, look for the classic musical My Fair Lady, running May 2nd through 18th at the Majestic Theater. And on the Majestic Theater Call Board, open auditions for Resurrection, a new play written and directed by Stephanie Long, happen April 7th and 8th at the Majestic. Resurrection is set in April 2020 at the onset of the COVID pandemic. 58-year-old Margaret Hartman has had early onset Alzheimer's for 14 years. She lives in a nursing home in Scarsdale, New York, when she contracts COVID and ends up in the hospital on a ventilator. Her family fears the worst, but after several weeks, Margaret regains her strength. And when removed from the ventilator, she no longer has Alzheimer's. This change brings chaos to the relationships within the family bubble. For show information, tickets, and audition details, go to majestic.org and Facebook. This summer's annual musical by the Mid-Valley Musical Theater in Albany is Walt Disney's Tarzan, the musical, with music by Phil Collins. Performances are August 7th through 16th. For show information, tickets, and audition details, go to mvmtheater.org and Facebook. For the Mid-Valley Colleges and Universities on the Chemeketa Community College Call Board in Salem, Chemeketa Theater's Under the Stars will present its second summer musical, July 29th through August 7th at the Jerry Frank Amphitheater in Salem's Riverfront Park. The show is Disney's Mary Poppins and is directed by Stephen Munshaw and choreographed by Christopher Dean. For information, email smunshaw@chemeketa.edu or call 503-836-2266. At Western Oregon University in Monmouth, winding up the WOU Theater season May 28th through 31st is Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed and Nina Verdalos, directed by Risa Fleming. For show information and tickets, go to the wou.edu theater page or see their Facebook page. At Willamette University Theater in Salem, coming to the Pelton Theater April 11th through 26th is the final show of Willamette Theater's season, Bloom, Bloom, Pow, a climate doom comedy inspired by 1950s monster movies and the real-life 2014 crisis in Toledo, Ohio, when the tap water became deadly to use. For show information and tickets, go to wutheater.com or see their Facebook page. At the Mid-Valley High Schools, Central High School in Independence is on Facebook and at chsperformingarts.net. Music of the Night, a performing arts fundraiser, cabaret, and auction, happens at Central High on April 25th. Dallas High School is at dhstheater.org and on Facebook at Dallas High School Thespians. And Then They Came for Me by playwright James Still is on stage May 7th through 10th at the Dallas Theater. At Salem area high schools, McKay High School is on Facebook at McKay Thespians, and McKay's Spring Show is Almost Maine. The performance date hasn't been posted on their Facebook page yet, but we'll get it updated as soon as we can. McNairy High School is on Facebook at Ken Collins Theater. Peter and the Starcatcher is on stage May 14th through 17th at McNairy's Ken Collins Theater. And North Salem High School is at nshstheater.com and on Facebook at NSHS Theater. Paragon Springs, Stephen Dietz's vibrant and often funny reimagining of Henrik Ibsen's An Enemy of the People puts the lure of capitalism and the greed of small-town self-interest squarely on trial. The show runs May 1st through 3rd at North Salem High School. And Failure, a love story by Philip Dawkins, comes to the North Salem High stage May 22nd through 24th. Tuneful songs and a whimsical chorus follow the story of the three Fail sisters, Nellie, Jenny June, and Gertie, as they live out their lives above the family clock repair shop near the Chicago River before their time unexpectedly runs out. It's a magical musical fable where the power of love is far greater than anyone's successes or failures. South Salem High School is on Facebook and Instagram at Saxon Drama. The spring show at South Salem High School is the classic courtroom drama 12 Angry Jurors, and that runs May 15th through 17th in the Rose Theater. At Sprague High School, Sprague's One Act Festival happens May 15th through 17th. And West Salem High School is at westsalemdrama.com and on Facebook at West Salem Drama Department. Shakespeare favorite Twelfth Night is coming to the West Salem stage May 1st through 3rd. Twelfth Night is a comedy about a love triangle, requited and unrequited, romantic and familial, filled with illusion, deception, disguises, madness, and the extraordinary things that love will cause us to do and to see. And that's a wrap for today's KMUZ Theater Talk calendar for plays and auditions at your favorite theaters. And if your Mid-Willamette Valley Theater has a play or audition coming up that's not on our calendar, please send it our way at kmuztheatertalk@gmail.com. Coming up after the break, I'll talk with director Jill Sorensen and actors Natalie, Pate, Gwin, and Noah Miller from the musical Big Fish, on stage March 21st through April 12th at Pentacle Theatre in Salem. That's coming up right after this. KMUZ Theater Talk and KMUZ FM rely on the support of listeners and sponsors. If you enjoy listening to your commercial-free community radio station, please go to kmuz.org today, click the Donate button, and don't forget to say that KMUZ Theater Talk sent you. And thanks a million for your support. Coming up next is director Jill Sorensen and actors Natalie, Pate, Gwin, and Noah Miller from Big Fish. It's on stage March 21st through April 12th at the Pentacle Theatre in Salem. And I love this story. Big Fish is a beautiful musical based on the celebrated novel and film, and it really is a heartwarming story that centers on a traveling salesman with larger-than-life stories and his son, who's determined to uncover the truth behind his father's epic tales. Welcome to KMUZ Theater Talk, Jill, Noah, and Natalie.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, Jill, what possessed you to bring one of my favorite stories to the Pentacle Theatre stage this season? I'm just thrilled to hear about this.
Well, you, of course. And I love relationships. I love stories that revolve around what makes us human and how do we come together as family members, chosen family, neighbors, and friends. And it's one of the most interesting storylines to me. So when this was mentioned to me about 2 years ago, I thought, can I direct a show about the relationship between a father and a son? As a mother of two grown daughters, I felt like I could. And so we ventured forth, and it's been just an amazing, amazing journey.
Well, this story is really a compelling one, and you and I are on the same wavelength. I love plays and musicals about what it means to be human, and I think that's what theater is all about, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. For those who aren't familiar with the story, can you give us a little rundown of the plot of this play?
Sure, and you did a really good job in your intro. So the show centers around Edward Bloom. He is a traveling salesman. He grew up wanting a huge life. And I think it's up to the audience to determine whether or not they think he had that big life. But we see his relationship with his adult son, Will, who is preparing to become a father himself. And Will and Edward have a strained relationship because Edward was gone a lot being a traveling salesman, and Will really felt like he was neglected as a kid, and all he knows about his dad are these outrageous stories about giants and mermaids and dragons, and I think he just wants to know who his dad is so that he knows who he will be as a dad. And so the story centers around those two timelines, and the ending just it's really about resilience and how we have grace with the people in our lives. And it's a beautiful story about love.
Well, Noah, your character is an interesting one in this show. Tell our listening audience a little bit about the part you're playing and what it means to you.
I think that Jill really hit him on the head there in the beginning when she said that he just grew up wanting this huge life. And you see that right from the very beginning of the show. You see him being a sort of mediator between people. You see him being that hometown hero. You see that he has all these great relationships with the people in his town. And yet there's this underlying, I want more of that. And he's constantly shooting to reach for the stars. He encounters this witch who tells him, you're going to live an exceptional life. And not only are you already this listener, this storyteller, this hometown hero, but you will continue to be that, and you will meet all of these people along your journey, and they are who help to get you to that place, and you're going to rely on them, and they're going to be close to you, and you're going to be close to them, but yet you'll still have to move on from them, and you'll continue building those relationships on your way. So I think that's the beautiful part of Edward is that he is always striving for what's next in his life and constantly striving to be the biggest version of himself.
And Natalie, you're playing young Sandra. Tell us a little bit about her and the role that she plays in this story.
Yes, I have the honor of playing young Sandra Templeton. Sandra is Edward Bloom's eventual wife, his love interest of the story, and the mother of his son. And she serves several important aspects of this show. I think when Edward is a big dreamer, she's the calm presence that keeps him grounded to earth. But I love how Jill put it earlier in terms of letting it be up to the audience to determine if they think that Edward had a big life or not. Because I think at surface value, someone might see Sandra's life as being a smaller, simpler, plainer life as well. But I don't think that she sees it that way at all. And I think that one of the things she loves so much about Edward and the life that they build together is what she sees in it and the happiness and big adventures that it holds, regardless of what it looks like on the outside. And playing the younger version of her in the story, I am really focused on the fact that she is pretty desperate to make sure that her life is something bigger. I don't think she quite knows what she wants it to be. Edward first meets her when she's auditioning for the circus, and I don't know that I would interpret her as someone who wants to actually be in the circus, but I think she's looking for any ticket out that she can get. And I relate to that on a lot of levels in that I think a lot of us want to make sure, especially when we're starting off in our lives, that our life is as big and full as we dream it to be. And her relationship with Edward really ends up being the thing that allows that to grow.
Natalie, Edward is a driven man. So when your character, Sandra, runs away to join the circus, she meets this guy who has stories, fanciful stories about giants and mermaids and witches. What does she think at first of this guy? Are they on the same wavelength, or is she curious about him?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I think in many ways they are on the same wavelength. They have a moment that freezes in time at the circus, and they don't actually reunite for a few years after that. But they're very much on the same wavelength. At one point, she even says to him that she wasn't sure that he was real, that she thought she might have imagined him as well. So I think she has an active imagination as well. I think him telling her these stories is exciting and new and inspiring, and she wants to be a part of it. And there's different versions of their romance in the movie, in the musical, in the book, and even other songs that were written for this musical originally on Broadway, different versions of what you will see when you come see it in Salem. One of the lines is that Edward Bloom is bothered by people who think small. And I think my interpretation of that is he sees Sandra very much as his equal in this adventure of life. And I think she sees him as that as well. And he paints this picture for her of what he dreams their future will be. And it's one of love and care and adventure. And I think she very much wants to be a part of that with him.
And Noah, what keeps your character as young Edward anchored to this adventurous young person that you met at the circus?
There's many things. There's the allure of the connection that they instantly have. There is the awestruck young lover boy that he turns into the moment he sees her. I mean, he's left to go on the road, and he has this girlfriend from high school back in his hometown, and he promises to come back, and he finds his way to the Callaway Circus and sees Sandra, and all of a sudden time stops for those two, and they instantly have this connection that just feels innately much bigger than anything he's experienced before. So I think that love at first sight, so to speak, is part of what keeps him grounded and what keeps him working for 3 years to figure out who she is. And at the same time as she is keeping him working for 3 years in a roundabout way, or the promise of getting to find out who she is keeping him working. I think that him being busy working at the Callaway Circus is also what continues to motivate her, because she stays this kind of mysterious figure in his mind. And I think that's exciting to him because it's something that's unattainable. And he is used to getting what he wants quickly. And he sees this beautiful woman who is dancing and singing and instantly is thinking, she is who I have seen in my head. She is who I saw in the vision from the witch, and she is what I need for my life to be complete. And I think that they share that beautiful connection of fate, like that invisible tie that brings them together the entire time.
Ain't love grand, though? Ain't love grand. Jill, this is a very fanciful tale.
Yes.
There is a giant.
Yes.
There is a witch. There is a mermaid.
Yes.
When you first read this play with all of these fanciful characters, what vision came to your mind? How are you going to present this on the stage? And did your vision evolve as you thought about the musical and talked with your creative team about it?
When I first read the play, I noticed that there were so many locations, and immediately my anxiety went into overload of how are we going to have all these locations?
Really, every director fears that, right?
Right. What I wanted with this and what I spoke to the cast and the production team about was I see this as kind of like a living storybook. So when audiences come to see this musical, they should be in the presence of very fantastical things. And that's how we designed the set. That's how we designed the props. We have 2 beautiful swampy southern trees that flank our stage that we have a muralist did. And we have a cave and a circus and a mermaid bench and water. And it should really feel like you're flipping through the pages of just a fantastical storybook. I wanted to bring that feeling to life. And I think we're there in our little Pinnacle space.
You have a very talented cast. There's 14 named characters in this show, and another 12 performers that are in the chorus playing Lord knows how many different parts. I happened to stop by rehearsal for like 5 seconds one night, and I was just kind of blown away by how many people you had in the little rehearsal space at the Pentacle Studio in downtown Salem. What were the challenges, besides the almost 40 people on the stage, have you had to face along the way, and how did you jump those hurdles?
We have 28 folks in our cast, and this show in particular is a great show for an ensemble because the ensemble is on stage almost all the time. And each of our ensemble members have at least 9 costumes. And so there's no downtime. But having all of those voices, having all of that movement just makes the musical even more fantastical. We faced several challenges as we went into production, not only with weather and we had a really hard bout of sickness that went through the entire cast. We unfortunately had to locate an additional production team member. And so I think we've rallied. The cast has been flexible and passionate, and we've given each other grace, and we'll be ready for opening. But definitely we've had our challenges, and I'm sure that Noah and Natalie would probably agree with that.
I was just thinking about your resume, which is fearsome when it comes to someone who is involved in theater. It's like, my God, look at all the work that Jill has done on all these fabulous shows. This one must be a particular joy to you because how many different skills do you have to bring to this musical?
Oh gosh. I love making props, and so I got to do some of that. John Stuber is our music director, vocal director, rehearsal pianist, pit director. So I'm working with John again, and Marianne Potter is ADing and doing costumes. So I think we all kind of like to dabble in it all.
Mm-hmm.
I love backstage. I really enjoy the whole process. We have a great band. I can't wait for you to see the band.
Oh,
They're
I can't wait either. I love it. I love, love, love it when there's an actual band or orchestra, a small orchestra on stage.
yeah.
Tracks are okay, but nothing brings it like a live musical performance by the band because it brings energy to the actors. It brings energy to the audience. It's the
It's
best thing.
special.
It's the best thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's special, and I feel very blessed to be able to do that. I can't wait for you to see it because they are over 6 feet in the air.
Wow. Tell me a little bit, without giving too much away for the audience, do you have a special moment that you look forward to at rehearsal, Jill?
I think it would be really hard for me to pick. There are some lines that make me giggle every single time, and I don't want to tell you those.
No spoilers here, right?
No spoilers.
This is a family show, right?
It is, yes.
And so, what do you hope the audience is going to come away from in this show, including the youngest of the people sitting in the audience and watching this musical?
One of the things that's happened throughout this production process is that there have been several people in the production and outside of the production who unfortunately have lost a loved one. And what I hear pretty consistently is the message of the show about really trying to connect with those folks in your life and reflecting on how they have made you who you are today. And so I think a lot of audience members will connect with Sandra's love for Edward at the end of his life, Will's desire to know who his dad is, with Jenny's desire to have Edward return to her. Um, all of those relational things, I think there is something in this show for everyone. For little kids, I think they're going to really love Carl the Giant. I think they're going to love the circus. I think they're going to love the mermaid. The dance numbers are fantastic. So I really hope people come and have a good time. And I hope that they hug their loved ones.
Well, Natalie, is there a moment in the show that you look forward to every night? Or maybe it's not every night. Maybe it's something that you think about when you go to rehearsal, when you're on your way to rehearsal, and you think about what you're going to rehearse that night and wow, I get to do this tonight. This is really awesome.
I'm with Jill. There's definitely a couple lines and moments that I just love to hear, and that I get a lot of, just joy from. I think my scenes with Noah are amazing, and he's been an incredible scene partner and person to go through this journey with, and so I really enjoy doing our scenes together. I get to be part of the big USO tap number, and I love getting to dance in that number. I think going into the show, on our first night of rehearsal, Jill asked each person in the cast and crew what they were hoping to get out of this show. And I brought up that the most recent Pentacle production I was involved in was on the creative team. And while that was very fulfilling and fun in its own way. I was missing very much being part of the cast and being kind of in the trenches day in and day out. And so I think for me, it's that reset every night where, we go about our days and we have ups and downs. And then at the end of the night, you kind of leave your baggage at the door and you focus. And it's just kind of a really wonderful thing to get to be part of a creative group of people who are kind and hardworking. And the fact that we get to just play on stage all night, like it's just fun. It's just a fun thing that we get to do. And I hope the audience feels that. If nothing else, I hope they walk away having seen there be just a lot of joy on the stage.
Well, Noah, your part is particularly challenging because there's another actor, Jeff Witt, who's playing the mature Edward Bloom. How are you approaching your growth from a young man until the time we meet the mature Edward Bloom? How do you approach that as an actor? What have you worked on in that journey?
That's a beautiful question. I did a lot of watching of Jeff Witt, who is playing mature Edward. In the very beginning of our rehearsal process, I made it my goal to really watch the way that he was approaching mature Edward as a character and the ways that I could see some of the writing in Edward as he's written as a younger person, because in the original writing of the show, both Edward and Sandra are written as one character, played by someone somewhere in the middle of the two different age ranges that we see them in. And so our production team made the decision to split both Edward and Sandra into two different roles. And so I just think that's a great way to give actors more opportunities. And getting back to kind of my process was, like a lot of watching, and Jeff has been doing this a lot longer than I have. And so there's such a rich and amazing pool of skill for me to just watch and take in. And it's been a real treat kind of watching the nuances that he puts into the character and kind of stealing bits and pieces of that in order to, in my younger version of the character, give little hints and little blips and details of the person that Edward will eventually become when he is a little bit older. I think that's what it boils down to a lot, is just watching his interactions with Heather, who is playing our mature Sandra, and finding the nuances of their interactions as well. Even though I don't get to share any time with young Will, Edward's son, on stage, I want those relationship dynamics to shine through in other relationships that I have with the characters on stage. And so that's been kind of my main goal.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, because fathers and sons, even as a young man, when you find a partner that is going to bring all the joy to your life and potentially have a family with, you think about your responsibility as a dad should that happen, So that's a wonderful approach that you took. What have you learned along the way, Noah?
I think the biggest thing that I have taken away from this show is I have so much to learn from my fellow castmates, and the wealth of skill and talent and community building and friendliness and flexibility and just general beauty in this cast and this creative team. I mean, getting to watch Natalie perform and getting to be her scene partner, she was very kind to say that I'm a great scene partner, but truly, she brings such a beautiful depth and skill to every single moment that she is on stage, and she makes it so easy to do every scene with her. I think it's very evident when you watch her as Sandra that she is just a masterclass in performance. So I've gotten to learn a lot from my romantic interest in this show. And
thanks, Noah.
of course.
You asked Noah, what did you learn? And I have two daughters. And so I had to think long and hard about that relationship between a father and a son. And I didn't have a relationship with my father. And so I really relied on all of the people in my life that exuded that fatherly presence. And there's a line in a song that Edward sings that says, I'll fight the dragons until I know you can. And that line really resonated with me as a parent in general, that's what we want to do as parents, right? We want to take on the battles and fight those battles until we know that our kids are ready to fight those battles. I think that's just symbolic of the love that a parent has for a child. Sometimes that comes through really well, and sometimes it's more of a struggle. But exploring that journey, I think we all have a desire to know where we come from and where we're going. And for Edward, he had a witch tell him how his life was going to end. And so I think about that often, about like, what would I do differently?
Mm.
And I don't have an answer for that, but I do think that audience members might take away that question as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. This is a terrific cast, Jill. I'm so
Yes.
pleased that you brought so many talented people. They're too numerous to mention here, folks. So do go to the pentacletheater.org website and look at the Pentacle Theater's Facebook page also for information about the cast. It's going to be an amazing production.
Well, thank you.
28 people on stage.
Yep.
A full orchestra.
Yes.
9 costume changes per person. Poor Marianne.
A giant.
A mermaid.
A werewolf.
A werewolf too. I can't wait. Big Fish opens March 21st at Pentacle Theater. You can get tickets at pentacletheater.org. And there are plenty of evening performances and plenty of matinee performances, but you better get your tickets soon.
Yep.
Because the matinees are doing very, very well, and the early evening shows of the run are being sold out. So please check out pentacletheater.org and get your tickets now. It's based on a celebrated novel and an incredible film directed by Tim Burton, by the way. But the stage musical version is directed by Jill Sorensen. And she is a very imaginative and very talented director to bring this story to life. It's a story of a traveling salesman who lives life to the fullest, and he has the stories to prove it. And his son, Will, is trying to understand, are these stories real or not?
Yep.
And we've had 2 of the cast members here, Noah Miller, who plays the younger Edward, and Natalie Pate, who plays the young Sandra, who young Edward falls in love with. I want to thank you guys, Jill, Noah, and Natalie, for joining me here on KMUZ Theater Talk, and I want to wish you the absolute best. Break a leg.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, it's time to wind up today's KMUZ Theater Talk program. Thanks a million for listening. If you'd like to share today's program with your friends and hear more behind-the-curtain interviews, go to your favorite podcast app and subscribe to KMUZ Theater Talk. KMUZ Theater Talk comes your way at 9 a.m. the first and third Friday of the month on KMUZ at 100.7 and 88.5 FM. Also on KMWV-FM Dallas at 98.3 HD2 and streaming worldwide at KMUZ.org, on the KMUZ mobile app, and wherever you get your podcasts. I'll be back April 4th with a brand new KMUZ Theater Talk program. Meanwhile, see the KMUZ Theater Talk Facebook page for news and updates about live theater in the Mid-Willamette Valley. And next Friday at 9 a.m. on KMUZ 100.7 FM, you can hear Talking About Art with Joel Zach. KMUZ Theater Talk is proud to partner with the Mid-Valley Theater Network and with Press Play Salem. Until next time, I'll see you in the front row.